Welcome back to a Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes and I will be joined by Kevin McCluskey after the Celtic versus Real Madrid Opening Champions League game. Kevin will be joining us very, very shortly. It did indeed end Celtic 0, Real Madrid 3, which by no means, Kevin, was a race when you look at particularly the first 56 minutes of that game where we equipped ourselves particularly well. We've obviously been chatting about this through the game as well in the group chat. And I said that, the margins are so fine when you consider Maeda's chance within 60 seconds of the restart and then 56 minutes in where a goal down. And it kind of breaks down after that. Real Madrid are able to turn the screw. Overall, though, Kevin, lots to be positive about in that game.
I think there is lots to be positive about, Paul. Absolutely. We spoke before the game and we spoke at halftime, and we were all smiles and we were all really positive going into the game, and then about how we played in the first half. We've ended up losing 3-0. I don't think it was a 3-0 game, and there's lots of positives I think that we can take away from that. That says that for at least the first 45, 55 minutes of the game, we went toe to toe with Real Madrid. We gave them a proper game. I think they had to up their game in the second half to compete with us.
Yeah.
They did. It's just unfortunate that when guys like Luka Modric and Toni Kroos decide to up their game, it's to a completely different level than what we're used to. Mm-hmm. But there's no shame. There's no great disappointment in a sense in losing this game because, it's Real Madrid. They're a really top side. And the fact that we didn't get embarrassed, the fact that we had chances to score. If we score first, it's the old one. If you score first, we change the game. It becomes a different game. So yeah, lots of positives to take. Disappointing result, but I think we'll take it on the chin and we'll move on.
The big thing for me, I'm going to bring in as many comments as I can. After a result like that is, obviously as a fan, there is a reactive nature straight after a game. But I'm looking at this more positively because I think in the first half, and we spoke about it at half time, and we'll go over the first half again, Celtic went up against the champions of Europe, and they did it with some style. They didn't do it, with 10 men behind the ball. We created chances, Kevin, and a couple of those chances were the best in the first half, I would have thought. Yes, Joe Hart made a fantastic save just before half time, but if you then look at the response to that being making a change at half time, and I don't know if there was an injury or if it was a tactical change by Ange, he makes a change at half time. The guy who's just on the park, maybe getting to grips with the game, the ball falls at his feet, he should bury it. And that was a disappointment. And I'm not blaming Maeda. He should bury that. And see it at that point, no, Kevin, like you just said there, Real Madrid had it in them still to take it up a gear, right? So even if we had, you never know what's going to happen, but even if we had taken the lead, Real Madrid did have it in them to step it up. And I think the disappointment is in the scoreline rather than in the fact that we were defeated because, let's be honest here, who actually thought Celtic were going to beat the European champions tonight? I think it was all about learning and progressing as individuals and collectively as a team. I think the second goal, the sucker punch really, was the fact that it was scored right after the first. But when you watch the second goal, Kevin, it was absolutely brilliant by Modric. The way that instead of trying to shift the position of his body and the balance and the weight, he just hits it with the other foot. Absolutely superb. And it was at a time where I thought Gents had actually won the ball back and won possession back. And then Modric does that. Absolutely phenomenal. The third goal, again, looking back at that, you've just got to put your hands up and say it was sheer brilliance. What a well-worked goal that was. I think in the past you can look at European performances and you can look at the goals in particular that we concede, Kevin, and you think that was poor, that should be done better. But two out of those three, at least two of the goals were just sheer brilliance from the top team in Europe. And I think that after that game, the players should really be proud of themselves for the way that they equipped themselves against Real Madrid.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think too many times we've watched these kind of big games and you're coming away thinking we've lost some sloppy goals. You can always pinpoint the error that's led to the goal. Can't really say that so much tonight. I don't think. I think again, if you want to be hypercritical about it, the second goal, I think Carter Vickers has got to do better on the halfway line. I can't remember who it was he goes in to the challenge with on the halfway line. I need to watch it back. But I think if he commits to that challenge, he's got to win the ball there, or he's got to break the play up somehow. He doesn't. But then after that, once Modric gets the ball, that's a genius at work. And the way that he, as you say, just moves it infield. And it's very reminiscent of a James Forrest goal. I think, was it a Dembele goal rather, probably against Rangers, where he's just hit it with the outside of the foot and it's gone in.
Although James Forrest does like that move, he does favour
like
that
shot
yes,
as well.
Yes.
Aye, so maybe he's been watching.
So we're comparing Forrest and Modric. I mean, anything can happen on Acsom tonight.
Why not? That's a great goal. It's a great finish anyway. Put it that way, and you've got to hold your hands up to that and say it is. The third goal,
from a world-class player, Kevin. I mean, let's not forget,
Exactly. It's Luka Modric, who's, I think, did he not win Best Player at the last World Cup or something like that? He's
37.
Thereabouts. He's 37 and playing like he could still play for another 5-6 seasons if he can keep on going like that, because he just makes the game look so effortless. And then, going to say about the third goal and the ball over the top from Kroos, I was saying just before we went back on at the half-time, Kroos is one of my favourite players to watch because of those kind of moments. I'm just gutted it was against us. But he can just deliver a ball from anywhere on a sixpence. And then, Taylor's caught in no man's land, not at his fault, but just because the ball is so good, there's the overload behind him. And when that ball comes back in, it's a certain goal. So, disappointment with the 3 goals, or to have lost the 3 goals, because I don't think it was a 3-0 defeat. But if we can avoid talking about them as much as we can, there's a lot of positives, I think, that we can talk about. And positives from a game against, and we'll labour on the fact, Real Madrid, European champions, and we do have positives to take from the game. It wasn't a whitewash by any manner of means.
No, you're right. And I think that if we just look at the scope of change within Celtic in a very, very short space of time. So a Celtic State of Mind starts going live, streaming like this for match days 2 seasons ago. So we're now in our 3rd season. And in that first season, Kevin, we play one of the teams from your neck of the woods. We play Ferencváros. And I remember disappointment. If we're going to talk about European levels and how we're progressing as a club, the disappointment after the defeat. And I know that things were different, one-legged European campaigns, due to the pandemic, and we would all rather forget that for many, many other reasons other than the football. But the football came into it, Ferencváros, and the disappointment we felt after it, because it really felt as though we weren't making progress, right? And then, the following season, you're almost giving him a free hit. You're almost giving Ange a free hit against Midtjylland. But he virtually gets us through. We go to extra time against Midtjylland, despite the fact that we don't have a centre-half, and we've got to play Dane Murray over there. We've had to drop our goalie because he's useless, and we're playing Scott Bain over in the away leg. We still have a European campaign though, and in that European campaign there was plenty to be positive about. I think the biggest disappointment was the Bodo Glimt double header. We come away from that, if you were to watch that back on the post-match, we're bitterly disappointed. But this time round, we're coming up against the best in the game, the best in the tournament. They're going to be in the top 2, I would suggest, in the tournament again this season. And for 56 minutes, you didn't know which way the game was going to go. The ball drops at Maeda. And I think that this is summed up, and it will probably be brought up on social media tonight, the reaction of Harry Kewell in the Celtic dugout. So Maeda misses a chance. And the way that he reacts, it's not heads in the hands, it's not screaming, shout, he just pulls his cap over his face. Because he knows at that moment, Kevin, right, that's a turning point. And you could maybe call on the Joe Hart save, brilliant. The ball that hits inside of the post, and 99 times out of 100 it could have ended up going in the net from Callum McGregor. But the moment that the whole game changed for me was the ball dropping at Maeda. He's maybe just not as sharp because he's just came on the park. And Harry Kewell knew that, sitting in the dugout, didn't he? I'm not blaming Maeda, by the way. I mean, what a game to come into. But I think that was the moment, and that's the margin, really, that we'll learn from it, though. And this is a big thing. Ange and this team will learn from tonight, Kevin.
Absolutely. The thing with that chance is it's probably fallen to the wrong player. And it's not a slight on Maeda, it's the fact that he's just come on the park and he's maybe not just up to the pace of the game. If that's Giakoumakis, chances are it goes in. And then you wonder, though, does it change the game, though, still for a wrong reason? Despite we maybe scored the goal. Because you think, did the chance then come too soon in the second half? Because I think if we score that, Madrid still somehow managed to pick the tempo up and raise the standard of the play of the game, because that's the type of side you are. But you can't afford to miss that chance. You know, you just can't afford to, because again, either way, I think it's more the fact that the chance comes too soon in the half.
Yeah.
Whether we score it, they're going to raise their game because they've gone to go behind. Whether we miss it, it gives them the boost because we've just missed another chance. And at that point, they're probably thinking, if we don't step the game up, Celtic will create more chances against us, because we had done up until that point and we had looked good. So, you know, it probably sounds silly and counterproductive, but did we really want to have that chance so early in the half? If it comes 5 minutes later and we score, we've got less time to hold on to. But also, I think it's just it was just giving us a far better platform to go on for the rest of the game. But yeah.
No, you're right. You're right. And let's not forget that some of these players in the hoops tonight were playing their first ever games in the Champions League. Okay? And for me, I'm going to bring this up, and it's not to mock the person making a comment. Absolutely not. We really appreciate everybody's view. But it's really just to say, let's just chill a bit and let's put everything into perspective, because Robert Davies comes in to say Jota's not good enough for Europe. Ran amok in Scotland. He was afraid to run at them. Good ball for Abada. That's all he did. That's all he did. And I'm going to have to counter this, Robert, because I think what you've got to look at is that over the piece, Jota was very brave. He played his game, Kevin. He ran at the defence. Now, running at a Real Madrid defence is going to be different, no disrespect, than running at a Ross County defence or running at a Dundee United defence, right? So it's going to be tougher and less things are going to come off. But I think over the piece, Jota did pretty well when you consider this was his first ever, correct me if I'm wrong, Champions League game. He's 23 years of age. He's having the season of his life. And I don't think you can write him off after a performance like tonight. I don't think there was a bad performance in a Celtic jersey tonight. Kevin, if you're looking at, the old adage of giving a player marks out of 10, and I know that's maybe kind of scorned it and all that kind of stuff now because of the different analytics that there are available. And the 10 star check is probably the observer's choice, you know what I mean? You're just watching a game, giving them But there's nobody performing under a 6 tonight in a Celtic jersey for me. I think that's very harsh on Jota.
I don't think there was anyone that would have performed under a 6 or a 7 either, if I'm being honest. And I think if you're going to make the comment that Jota didn't run amok in this game, you could label that against anyone then, because we didn't run amok against Real Madrid. But what we did do was we stuck to our principles. We played our game. Every single one of them out there was brave on the ball. They were all composed in the ball, and that starts from the back line. They took risks, passing it out from the back when their easier option was to try and go long. We spoke about Hatate at half-time and how every time he got the ball, he was looking to do something. He was maybe trying to take a player on, force a pass. I think Jota did have a decent game. He tried to run at Carvajal, who's one of the best right-backs in the game. He didn't get the better of him every time, but he did a few times. And his very last involvement of the game, his last couple of involvements were a cross, I think, for Giakoumakis at the back post, and then a curling effort that went just over. So he's had a few moments.
Yep.
And you can say that for every one of them. They all had their moments in the game, and they all played their own game against a side that's probably 2 or 3 levels above what we're used to, at minimum. So there should be absolutely kind of no shame, no real criticism in a sense of anyone, and that's not trying to gloss over anything about the game. We just played a really brave performance against a side that we had no right to. And we'll say it all over and over again. We took them to 55 minutes and we played them as equals for 55 minutes. Once we lost the first goal, the heads go down a little bit, which is natural. We do the thing that we tend to do in Europe. When we lose 1 goal, we lose 2. They always come in quick succession. And that's the disappointment that we haven't got over that yet. But even in between the second and the third, and then from the third to the final whistle, we still managed to compete.
Yes.
For decent spells in that time. And that's what you've got to look for from these games. It's the character, it's the spirit of the players to just not give up and to keep on trying to play what we're now calling the Celtic way, the Ange way.
You know, there was that fear after conceding the first goal, and the fear materialised with the second. But I would go as far to say that we weathered that storm, and at the point where we made the substitutions, it did look as though we had kind of ran out of steam at that moment. Kevin, we'd been chasing shadows for a bit, and then Ange makes the triple substitution. And then I felt that, third goal aside, which again was a brilliantly worked goal when you watch it back, we equipped ourselves well and we crafted a few chances near the end of the game. And I kind of thought to myself, if we get a goal back, the scoreline, we probably deserved a goal. We did. We did deserve a goal. And what I'm going to bring up here as well is we've seen two appearances from Haksabanovic, right? And against two completely different types, styles and standards of opposition in Ross County and Real Madrid. But he fancied his chances when he came on tonight, and I loved that. He was direct. He played with a purpose. He wasn't scared to try a shot. He got himself into a couple of good positions, took on his man. So I think there's loads to be positive about. We're still building the team. We're still building the squad. We've got a guy in there who's only, that was only his second appearance in a Celtic jersey, Kevin. We're not the finished article yet. Ange won't claim that we are yet. So loads and loads to look upon and think, that's the second hardest game we're going to get this season. The hardest being at the Bernabeu. No, you're quick off the mark again in the full-time analysis. No, Doran, proud of the boys tonight. I think most of us are. On another night, we could have been leaving with the points. European champs turned it up a notch in the second half. They certainly did. But we will go again. Plenty of football left in the group. And I think it was important also to note the support in the stadium tonight, Kevin. The atmosphere. No one in European football, or indeed world football, tuning in tonight would have left with anything but absolute respect for Celtic fans this evening. Another superb performance off the park by Celtic supporters.
Yeah, there was a point that you made, I can't remember if it was pre-match or half-time, and I was going to try and pick up on it, and it was, we're talking about maybe boys like Jota and Abada at some point are going to move on and they'll go and play somewhere else. And this was a game where they have to go and show, or the platform they've got to show that they're good enough to play here in the Champions League if they want to do it for someone else. And we're talking about the atmosphere at the games. If a Jota or Abada got to leave Celtic at some point, where on earth will they go to experience that atmosphere again? They could sign for a Chelsea and play against Real Madrid every other season in the latter stages of the Champions League, but they will never experience that atmosphere again. It's you could hear it coming through in the streams and the TV. It was just the fans constantly getting behind the team, singing for 90 minutes. You don't really get that level of passion anywhere else. It's the roar that goes up a couple of seconds after we lose a goal, the encouragement that we're constantly showing the team. We didn't get in the back once. It didn't sound like the fans got in the back once tonight. So that's why I think as a supporter base, we are second to none when it comes to the big games and actually getting behind the team and showing the level of commitment off the pitch that we want to see from it, the players on the pitch. And we're getting that now from this team that's being built, which is 14, 15 months into a long-term project.
Yes.
Guys coming off the bench, Haksabanovic, second appearance. And as you say, against Ross County and against Real Madrid, he played the same game. Mm-hmm. He's looked to commit the fullback. He's taken him on. He's had a couple of shots at goal. And I know, like I say, I'm just want to talk about the positives and get that out there, that today is, we'll take the 3-0 defeat in the chin, but then we'll look forward and we'll say, actually, we can build on this for the next games. And we're looking ahead to go a couple of away games coming up next in the Champions League, which will be difficult, Donetsk and Leipzig. But if we can put in the level of performance that we put in tonight, against those two, then we've every chance of coming away from the away games with the point, if not winning the home games. And that's not trying to be too carried away with myself, but it's thinking that we're at the beginning of something again, and Ange will guide us through, just as he did the league season last season. He'll have a plan in place to guide us through the Champions League group stage. And it's a strange feeling to come away from a defeat and actually thinking positively that it's not the worst thing in the world. We can actually go and make an impression in this group.
Yeah, I think we can. I think we've already made an impression with that performance tonight. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, Shakhtar Donetsk, Real Madrid went there last season and beat them 5-0. Real Madrid have it in their cannon to go and absolutely dismantle fine European sides who are playing at this level season on season. You've got to remember, just going back to the previous commenter, Celtic have not played at this level for 5 seasons flat. And we're learning season on season. You compare the feeling that we have just now, having been beaten 3-0 at home against Real Madrid, and compare it to Bayer Leverkusen last season, who beat us 4-0 at Celtic Park, Kevin, right? And this is a different level of side. We're in a different competition. Yet we are, for a spell, competing with Europe's finest. Kurt Smith, I think, sums it up. That was the best 3-0 loss in my life. I get what he means. I get what he means. Now, the last time we played competitively against Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, they beat us 3-0 at the Bernabeu in 1980. Can't say I remember that game, by the way. But obviously, there was a disappointment in that we obviously went into that game full of confidence, having beaten them 2-0 at Celtic Park, and we lost the tie. John Boy 67 made us miss changed that game, but we didn't give up. We kept playing. I'm proud of our team, and I'm seeing a lot of these types of comments coming in, and I've got to kind of echo these sentiments. Peter Kavanagh, I've lost the ability to read this evening. Another level, lads. Really enjoyed the first half. Would have loved to see Kalmak's shot go in the first half and made that early chance second half. And I think what you're doing there, Peter, is you're focusing on moments of a game where it can be on a knife edge, and the margins are so fine, Kevin, that McGregor's shot, he could hit that 99 times, it goes in. Tonight it wasn't to be. Maeda, like you say, it drops to 2 or 3 other players and the ball's in the back of the net. Completely different view of the game at that stage, but it wasn't to be. When they get their noses in front, however, then they know how to turn the screw, and that's exactly what they did. They've got world-class players. We've got players that we're trying to develop to allow them to play it at this level. And as soon as they are able to play at this level, then we've got another dilemma on our hands, like we were saying before, Kevin, because inadvertently, we're actually putting them in a shop window. You and Boy Martin, proud of our boys tonight. Madrid were just too good. And I think that you've just got to be a wee bit more philosophical about these things.
Exactly. I think you've got to look at that point and say they were just too good, and they should be just too good to beat us. One of our best players in that midfield in the first half was Matt O'Reilly, who was playing League One football, was he not, last season before we signed him. That's the level that he's come from, and he's competing at the Champions League now. Mm-hmm. And that's the level that kind of we're at against Real Madrid. So there isn't any shame in this. We were beaten by the better side. They stepped up in class in the second half, without a doubt. But big improvements from where we were a year ago when we played Michel Andes, he said, with Dane Murray, 16 years old, at centre-back, because Neil Beaton's got a red card in the first game. Your keeper's chucked one in the back of the net in the first game. You've got to bring in the reserve goalkeeper. We were all at sea. And if we'd gone up against Madrid this time last season, we'd have been in the receiving end of the 9-0 that we put out to Dundee United a few weeks ago, because it's just, we had no class about us then, really. 14, 15 months down the line, we're a completely different side. And we're developing players that are able to now go and compete at this level, which, you would never have believed a season ago.
No, you wouldn't. And the big thing that I'm taking from it as well, and it's not just empty words from Ange Postecoglou, but I truly believe that in the next 12 to 18 months, he's going to improve again. Now, the level of improvement may not be as fast a trajectory, because we were so poor when he came in that it went like that. It went through the roof because it had to in order to retain the league championship. So the trajectory may, level out a little bit, but all he is going to do is continue to improve, Kevin. This is also his first taste of Champions League group football. He's learning at this level, as are players like Jota and O'Reilly and Hatate, all in their early 20s, all bought other than Jota for small crumbs when it comes to Champions League money. I mean, as I said at half-time, that midfield was assembled with little more than £3 million. That's an incredible outlay when you look at the performance. I thought Hatate was outstanding tonight. I thought McGregor was brilliant tonight.
£3 million probably the monthly salary for the Madrid midfield.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's what it cost us to bring those 3 players in, and they did match World Cup winning midfielders. May only have been for 45 minutes, so we couldn't stretch it out for the full game. But realistically, our midfield shouldn't have been able to do what they did for 45 minutes. So they've all kind of punched above their weight for that level of time. And as we'll say, should really be proud of that performance and give them the hope and belief, rather, that they can actually go on and have a really good stab at getting second place in the group now, which is now, I don't think it's an unrealistic target to go for.
I was going to ask you what your targets were for the rest of this campaign. It's obviously difficult and it's a long season. However, I think the big thing, again, that we talked about before the game, Kevin, and we have touched on it during the week leading up to this game, is about adapting to the level and doing it quickly, so that, you know, the next time we have a challenge like this, we know what we're facing and we can face it a lot more comfortably. And there are players in this team, and I think we'll mention a few of them, players like Hatate, who had played something like 82 senior games of football when we signed him in January, right? I mean, that's really, to put this into perspective, 82 games. I mean, Callum McGregor plays that a season. You know what I mean? You've got Jota. Jota, the lion's share of the games that he had played were at B level at Benfica. You know, Matt O'Reilly, like you said, be playing, and I'm going to say lower league in England. We bring him in for just over £1 million. Now, he's adapting to this level. Jota is adapting. Hatate is adapting. You've got a player in McGregor who's got vast experience in Europe, and he'll help them on. Giakoumakis, you know, £2.5 million. He's not played this level. He was playing for a team that got relegated in the Dutch league. So these guys are coming in, and they're supplemented by the likes of McGregor, by the likes of Joe Hart at the back, who have got the experience. Juranovic, £2.7 million. You know, these are players. Maurice Jens is coming. Let's not forget the performance we've seen from Jens coming in tonight. And this is a player whose move to Germany didn't work out. You know, you looked at his performances last season and he couldn't buy a performance. And this is a guy who is coming tonight for me, and I thought he equipped himself very, very well. And these guys are all going to learn and improve from a night like tonight as well. And by the way, as the European campaign progresses, all you've got to do is look at how we learned last season. I used the Bayer Leverkusen games and results as a kind of barometer there. And we played them at Celtic Park and they beat us 4-0. And yeah, individual errors were our Achilles heel that evening, and a penalty that was never a penalty, with a handball against Carter Vickers. But compare and contrast that to the 4-3 away from home. You know, the 3-2 away from home. We were 2-1 up with 8 minutes to go. And we could have won that game. And had we won that game, we're going to qualify for the later stages. So I just think that we've got to take it all into account, Kevin. And tonight, Ange Postecoglou will have learned a lot, as will have players like O'Reilly and Hatate and Jota, who are playing at this level for the first time. So I'm taking it on the chin, like you say. You know, I'm full of confidence and optimism for the other games. I'm going to throw it at you. Do we qualify from this group this season?
Yes, I'll give it a yes as a simple answer. I think if we can keep the level of performance that we did, like you say, in the first 55 minutes of the game, up until the first goal or the second goal, if we keep that level up into the other games, we've got a very good chance of getting points in every game that we've got left. Up until the Madrid game, where you'd probably expect to lose away from home. And we'll learn from this tonight, because that's the type of manager that he is, and then he'll be drilling into the players maybe what went wrong and the things that they need to improve on. So we saw from last season, like you mentioned already, there was improvements kind of from game to game in Europe last season. I think it will be the same this season. I think he will learn from his mistakes. I think he's already shown and we can probably dispel the myth that Ange doesn't know how to defend, if that was still going around, because he's not this all-out attacking football that everybody thought he was. Tonight, I thought we held for quite a lot, long spells in the game. I can't speak now either. For long spells in the game, I thought we held a pretty good defensive shape, and we kept our full-backs quite deep at times when we had to, which we're told he doesn't do. But he does, because he learns and he adapts for the opposition at times while sticking to the key principles of how he wants to play.
Yeah.
I think then going into the next games, the next away, it's a tough game, but I think it's getting played in Poland because it'll be a neutral venue. If we keep Marian Shved quiet, because I think he scored 2 goals tonight for them, then why not again have the positivity and the positive mindset that we can go there and get a result? And if we do that, we then take it on to Leipzig. And I think they've had quite a poor start to the season in Germany. So if we can pick up on where their deficiencies are, target them, why not? I think it's a group that would be very capable of getting second place in now. And I just hope that that's not kind of too much positivity born from the fact that we're really excited for this game and proud of the performance. But I genuinely think we have a real chance now getting through this, or getting kind of knockout football of some description after Christmas.
Absolutely. We entered this game, Kevin, incredibly full of optimism, predicting draws and all sorts of things. And you know what? For 56 minutes, it looked as though we could have been right to have that belief. That is what Ange Postecoglou has instilled in us in a very, very short space of time. Patrick Kerrigan says Ange learns extremely quickly. I 100% agree with that. And by the way, if you're not going to do what he wants you to do, he ships you out. I mean, 21 first team players shipped out in one transfer window. I mean, that is basically the way he works. He's ruthless in his pursuit of success, and what he sees is a performance that he wants to see from his team, no matter who you're playing. And it is difficult to go from, like Haksabanovic, go from a game against Ross County and then come up against Real Madrid. But as you say, didn't change his style, didn't compromise. And by the way, I think that we should all be proud as Celtic supporters of that performance tonight. And we move on to the next game. I've got to say thank you, every single one of you, for joining us pre-match, post-match and at half-time. We do appreciate it. You keep tuning in, you keep subscribing, and it keeps Acsom ticking along, which is brilliant, because it allows us to talk about Celtic on a daily basis. All that's left for me to say, come back at 12:30 tomorrow. We have a new addition to the Acsom team, Kevin McCluskey. We will be joined by John Hughes, the son of the dearly departed Yogi, and he will be joining us on a Wednesday to give us his insight on all things Celtic, and he'll be teaming up with Kevin Graham and James McKenzie tomorrow. Thanks everybody for getting involved. If you've not done so already, click on the subscribe button on YouTube, and thank you, Kevin McCluskey, for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.
Nice one. Thank you very much for having me, Paul.